Diabetic Fabio. There you go.
Diabetic Fabio. That is a great way to put it. I don't know where else we can go from there. We're just going to leave it on Scott and that beautiful head of hair.
It's the IDP show, now you know.
Welcome to the IDP show. I'm your host, Josh Raymer, joined in the Soul Check tonight. It is Adam Markham, and returning to the show, one of our absolute favorite guests. He is from InThisLeague.com and FantasyPros, host of the ITL Fantasy Baseball and Football Podcast, and the host of the FantasyPros Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Scott Bogman. Scott, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, boys. Thank you for having me on, and excited to talk about some IDP today.
That's right. We always love having you on. We did this last year, post-draft winners and losers. We were talking a little bit before we got on mic, Scott. It's been a little bit of a sprint with fantasy football coverage. It feels like from free agency through and a little bit after the draft, it's just kind of like balls to the wall. But we're in a nice little rhythm right now. You're doing baseball stuff as well, so things are starting to settle out just a little bit.
Yeah, it is settling in right now. Thank God it's slowing down a little bit. It gets a little overwhelming with football and baseball, of course. But yeah, May is a nice month because it's like podcast appearances and writing up my chapters for the Black Book, which I do IDP for Joe Pisapia's Black Book. So yeah, just in the middle of putting all that together and enjoying the off season before the madness. We're going to get the schedule, I think, a week from today. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, so Scott knows his stuff when it comes to IDP, and he's very good, like us, at yucking it up on mic. So we're very happy to have Scott back on the show. And like we mentioned, we are going to be doing post-draft winners and losers. Addie, we've talked a lot actually, about rookies, their landing spots, right? We've done a lot of mock drafts, all that good stuff. It's all a lot of fun. But tonight we're going back to the vets. And I'm excited to talk about this stuff because there's some shakeups that have happened post-NFL draft.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, tons of moves with free agency, but then the draft, that kind of throws some wrenches into some depth charts. So, yeah, it's always good to sit around and talk ball, and then we get a nice new perspective from old Scotty boy.
That's right. It should be fun. I'm looking forward to this. The teams are pretty well set at this point.
I think so.
We're going to have some injuries. We'll probably have some
more. We got
more.
Justin Simmons coming sometime.
Yeah, there's some grenades that are waiting to go off and blow up some IDP hopes and dreams for us. But I think the rosters for most of these squads are pretty well set. So let's jump into it, Scott. We've got about 20 names to get through tonight. You sent us some winners and losers. We sent you some as well. So we're just going to ping pong back and forth here, winners and then losers, and kind of alternate back and forth. Why don't you kick us off with one of your winners? It was actually a player we talked a little bit about on our last episode of the IDP Trade Show out of Los Angeles. Who was your first winner, Scott?
I got Byron Young, the edge from the Rams, and he saw the 5th most snaps last season. And obviously, it was a huge blow losing Aaron Donald to this defensive line, which was already kind of spotty. But he got those snaps because they just needed him. They didn't have a lot of depth behind him. He was, young coming in, learning everything. He did fine. He was like league average. But I think now with adding Verse and Fisk on one side, and now you have Young on the other side, I just think anything that's going to bring more attention on the defensive line to the other players and let him get some more favorable matchups is good for him. And we know he's going to be out there a ton because he was last season and he had a lot of experience. So kind of excited to see what this new look defense, for the Rams looks like here. So obviously it's the post Aaron Donald world, but Kobe Turner was great last season. Fisk added in here, I think, is a good move as well. So I think Young is a winner coming out of the draft.
Yeah, Addy, I was listening back to the trade show, and I called Byron Young a loser. So only because adding Jared Verse, the draft capital that he got, I wondered how it would impact the snaps for Byron Young, because that was what made him such an appealing IDP play, was the volume. Now, the side I didn't think about was, what about if the quality of that defensive line improves and it's kind of a rising tide lifts all boats situation? Where do you come down on Byron Young post-draft? Winner, loser, somewhere in the middle maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I do think the snaps come down just a hair, but I still feel good with them getting like 75% of the snaps, which is still extremely healthy. That's like
might be better for him.
Yeah,
I think so. Yes, that the efficiency might improve as the volume comes down a little bit. Fresher legs, a little more help along the defensive line never hurts.
It's got to be one of the youngest defensive lines in the league.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, you got
Bunch of 1 and
Michael Hoyt,
2-year players, right? He's the elder statesman of the group.
He is the elder statesman, but I kind of see him in maybe like that sort of Andrew Van Ginkel role where he's maybe that third banana. Because I don't know, Scott, what do you think? We have been talking about Jared Verse could lead the rookie edges and snaps in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. They don't need the snaps as much as they did last season, even though Verse is obviously way better than Byron Young. First round talent, first edge talent. He easily could have been selected first and no one would have batted an eye. So it is a little more. I heard a couple of like Renner and a couple of those guys talking about how Verse was better with his hand in the dirt versus outside linebacker playing standing up a little bit. At least his grades were better. I don't think that's going to be a big concern. I think Verse is a guy that can come in and pretty much play wherever you want him to. He's just such a good weapon on defense. So I do expect a high volume, especially when you lose a talent like Aaron Donald. You got to do everything you can. So if you're the best player on the field, you're staying on the field. And I think Verse will do that fairly quickly.
Yeah, I agree. Because, I mean, they're still not that deep, right? They're still just like
sure
5 or 6 solid.
5 really solid guys. And I think if those guys play up to their potential, this is a sneaky good defensive line. But yeah, the depth past those top 5, couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
So, we'll see how the split works out. I do think Verse will probably be the snap leader with Byron Young right behind him, and then Michael Hoyt as the third banana, and then Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk playing on the inside there in place of Aaron Donald. Like, I think it was maybe the underdog guys or somebody in their draft grades I was listening to say you don't replace Aaron Donald with a 1-for-1 draft pick, but you just throw bodies at the problem and try to fix it that way. So I like what Los Angeles has done. That is a sneaky good, very young line. So they've got time to gel, time to grow and learn together. So I'm excited to see what they do as well. Our first winner, Washington Commanders, Addy, Dorance Armstrong. We kind of waited to see, is Washington going to really invest premium draft capital or a premium on the free agency market to replace Montez Sweat and Chase Young? The answer was no. We got Dorance Armstrong coming in, as well as Dante Fowler, 2 ex-Cowboys following their former defensive coordinator to the nation's capital. And even though the Commanders had a chance to add some pass rush help in the draft, instead they spend their premium pick on Jerzon Johnny Newton. Now, I have heard chatter that maybe Newton could kick out to edge a little bit with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen taking up most of the oxygen on the middle of that defensive line. But, Addy, I think it's fair to say from what we've seen so far, Dorance Armstrong is a winner post-draft.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his career high for snaps in a season was 543, and that was him playing 47% of the snaps. He did play 56% of the snaps in 2021, though. But, yeah, he's never really been 56%, 47%, 42% the last 3 years. So I expect him to definitely get a career high in snaps this season. You love that he has familiarity with Dan Quinn. I think he's pretty good. He's just been buried there in Dallas and hasn't really had a chance to be the lead guy, and now he's got that opportunity. I mean, I think we're going to see career numbers across the board. He's in a good situation. They got 3 really good defensive tackles. If Newton can prove that he's healthy at some point his rookie year, but good setup there, man.
I agree.
I like Dorance Armstrong quite a bit.
And going as the edge 67, Scott, a pretty nice value in drafts right now as well.
Love it. I mean, I think all the stuff that we said about Byron Young, right? Like he needed to take all the snaps last year. That all applies to Armstrong this season. And like you guys mentioned, the familiarity with Dan Quinn and the fact that they didn't add anyone at his position. I know Jonathan Allen requested a trade, so those rumors have also kicked back up a little bit after they took Johnny Newton, which isn't that surprising. It would be a surprise to see them trade Jonathan Allen, but it's not surprising to at least hear the rumors and see them listening to what they could potentially get. I mean, if I'm the Bears, I'm going right after Jonathan Allen. They gave you Montez Sweat for a song last year. But I think Dorance Armstrong is definitely a winner just for the fact that they did not draft a replacement for him. So these are the guys they're going to go with. And, next year will be the year where they probably invest a significant draft pick into that position.
Yeah. It seems like right now they're content to maybe get the Jonathan Allen replacement along the defensive line with Johnny Newton and then figure out edge rusher next season. And that we see that a lot, right? When new regimes come in, you have to prioritize what positions you're going to address first.
Yeah, and they also have Frankie Louvu, who's really good at rushing the passer.
That's
you
true.
got
Very
Chin, same thing. You can use Chin in creative ways. So, I mean, they'll be able to, like, manufacture some pass rush. But, yeah, you're right. They are missing, like, that elite type guy that I imagine they'll target in the next couple of years.
Yes. I like KJ Henry, as like a replacement level. If you're in a deeper IDP league, I think him getting an opportunity could be pretty nice this year, too.
And, I mean, Dante Fowler as well. He was awesome from a pressure rate standpoint and PFF standpoint. So, I mean, yeah, he could be solid, too, if there was an injury to one of those two, I think.
Yeah. So, all right, we were optimistic. Now it's time to spin negative for a second. Scott, who is your first loser? And we're sticking along the edge position right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go with David Ojabo, the edge rusher from Baltimore. And it's really an unfortunate story because this guy was a lock to be a top 15 pick towards Achilles at his pro day, and he has not been the same since, has not been able to stay on the field with a bunch of injuries. And it seems to me like, with the signing of Van Noy and drafting Adisa Isaac, they have just kind of left him out of this rotation. He only played 3 games last season. I think he might be done. I mean, whatever you get from him at this point is icing on the cake, I would say. And I don't think they're expecting much from him. So I think just, the fact that they signed Van Noy and they drafted Adisa Isaac kind of signals the end for David Ojabo to me.
Yeah, I think I'm more optimistic, Addy, about Odafe Owe. But Ojabo, just with the injuries, and I know you're a huge Kyle Van Noy fan. And then, big time. Like, put the jersey up on the wall level fandom.
We're going to need to get it.
You're going to need to get Jalen Phillips out of here.
I don't think they have. He's not on pristine auction.
No, I don't think he is. I don't think his Ravens jersey is going to make the cut. But yes, and then the drafting of Adisa Isaac as well. The teams, we've said this before, and I'm stealing this quote from, I think it's the Fantasy Footballers where I originally heard this. Teams can lie to us all offseason, but they can't lie with their money. They can't lie with their draft picks. They tell us what they think of their team, and what they've done in free agency and what they've done in the draft tells me they want to get better along this defensive line, especially at edge rusher. So I think I agree with Scott. I think David Ojabo, like you were talking about a guy we're going to mention later, Quay Walker, you're on alert. I think David Ojabo, you're on alert.
Yeah, I think so. Fortunately for him, though, it's Owe, Kyle Van Noy.
It's not elite level talent. You're right.
So, I mean, they really do need Ojabo to kind of come.
He's got a
him.
chance, yeah. But it's like if you don't perform this year,
you're right.
You're out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a make or break season.
The injury stuff is just so worrisome. You tear an Achilles. That's also why we're kind of scared to death about Jalen Phillips too. You just don't know what these guys are going to look like when they come back from something like that. And it's such a mental hurdle to get over to, and everything. It's just you hope for the best, but it normally doesn't work out well.
Yeah, I wanted to see what was the injury that kept him out last season.
And at least in Phillips' case, like Jalen Phillips saw himself be successful in the league. David Ojabo hasn't seen that.
It was ACL last year for Ojabo.
Oh my God! So Achilles and then ACL,
partially torn ACL.
It's surprising that Baltimore didn't do more to address that edge position. I mean, maybe they
still buy into him. They could.
Maybe
but
so.
I just 3 games last year, two major injuries already. He's missed more games than he's played, right? So
yeah,
I think if you're looking at this as a decision maker, you can love the player, love the person, and still make contingency plans in case it doesn't work out.
Right.
And when someone has that kind of injury track record, I think it's smart to probably have some backup plans in mind, because we'll see. Like you said, it's icing on the cake. If he performs, that's going to be great for Baltimore, because that is not a very sturdy group. Not a very star-studded group. So let's move to a group, though, that did get some reinforcements along the defensive line with the departure of their 2 starters from last season. It is the Minnesota Vikings. Brought in the offseason Jonathan Grenard from Houston and Andrew Van Ginkel from Miami. And we thought, oh boy, here we go. Addy was drafting Van Ginkel in pretty much every best ball.
Yeah, 5th round.
Yeah, 5th round. You'd love
this
to see
is IDP
it.
only.
Yeah, he had let us like Scott has, so it was just it was a wet dream for us in terms of white edge rusher with drip.
Can't ignore that stuff.
Please, and thank you.
I mean, it works though, doesn't it, Scott? You got Alex Singleton, you got Alex Anzalone.
Yeah, it works.
It works.
3 for 3.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
Ginkel.
lot of white boy drip going on here. So we're like, all
who
right,
doesn't like a dude with a Mr. T starter kit, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we thought, oh, this is wheels up for Andrew Van Ginkel. He's finally getting his shot out of the shadow of Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. And then they go and trade up for Dallas Turner. Addy, I know you're kind of in a weird spot because you are very bullish on Turner. I think more long-term.
Yes.
But there is still a chance that he comes in and is the second best edge rusher or maybe even the best edge rusher on this team year one. I still think when it's all said and done, Van Ginkel and Grenard will lead this team in edge snaps.
Yep.
But the chance, the looming specter of Dallas Turner makes me a little nervous now about Van Ginkel.
Yeah, it could be one of those deals where like Van Ginkel is clearly the number 2 up until like the midpoint of the season, and then they unleash Turner a little bit more, right? But I still feel good about Van Ginkel. I mean, he's definitely a loser, no doubt about it. I mean, it would have been nice.
He's back where he is, where he's always been, that kind of third banana.
Yeah.
Also familiarity with Brian Flores. Brian Flores drafted him.
Yep.
Brian Flores played him a ton of snaps when he was there in Miami, so I think there's still a path. I mean, Van Ginkel's versatile too. I mean, he's primarily played edge. I think like 90% of his snaps, but he also has a little bit of experience as like off-ball linebacker.
I think when David Long got hurt last year, he popped into off-ball linebacker.
He did. So he's a versatile piece. You know, Flores is going to like that. I mean, I think that Van Ginkel would still get like 700, 800 snaps. A really good tackler. So he's going to have a
deal too.
Yeah. 2 years, $20 million.
Yeah.
So I'm still optimistic for next season. I think all 3 of those guys can honestly eat. I mean, we see that a lot where 3 guys get over 600 snaps. So I think that could be what happens in Minnesota.
Yeah. How do you think this shakes out, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I think the rotation definitely could allow for that. I just, I don't know. Turner could be already the best edge rusher on this team, like you guys already mentioned. It could be Grenard that gets pushed off if he, but he looked so good last year. It's hard to see him losing any steam here, even moving schemes into a different team. So I think it's likely to be Ginkel is the third banana, as you would say. But anything is in the realm of possibility here, really. I mean, he is a rookie, Dallas Turner. So, it takes a while to adjust to life in the NFL and all that stuff. But I don't know. Turner seems pretty ready. So Ginkel has to be a loser here.
That's another good point. Turner is a rookie. Brian Flores is a bit of a hard ass at times. So he might make Turner work for it a little bit year one. But
we just saw this with Will Anderson. Really started to come on end of the season. So if this dude is Will Anderson light, I could see, like you said, kind of a back half of the season surge.
I don't know that
gets his legs under him.
I just don't know that he's quite ready like Will Anderson was.
I don't think so. He is so young.
Yes.
I think that's what we've got to keep in mind is this dude is so young that it may take some time. But I think it is fair to call Gink a loser for right now. And we should clarify, folks, we're not saying these people are losers. They might be losers. They could be huge losers.
No, Van Ginkel's definitely not a loser.
He's definitely not a loser.
Hair, again.
This ain't a debate. We're not casting aspersions. We're saying they lost value.
They lost value in the context.
But, it's kind of good for us that are in these drafts out here. Van Ginkel was getting up there a little high in ADP. He was like approaching like 5th, 6th round. So now he's
edge 33.
That's wild, isn't it?
Get that back down in the 40s. I'm feeling good.
Right. So now he'll be like, between rounds 9 and 11, I say. Never forget.
Never forget. All right. Next up here, Scott, we are going back to the optimistic side. We're optimistic, positive people. So we like to talk winners. And we've got a double dose of Cincinnati edge rush winners. Who do you have next, Scott?
Yeah, I got the combo here, Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard, and Hendrickson didn't get traded, which I think helps his value. I think most places that he went probably would have lowered his value. And yes, they did lose DJ Reader as a huge loss, right? But they added Rankins through free agency, Jenkins and Malik Jackson. So they actually have a real rotation in the middle of the defense, which is the most rotated position in the NFL. You have more fresh legs there. But I think the biggest thing, which didn't provide us through the draft, the biggest thing for these guys is getting Joe Burrow back and being able to play into the fourth quarter with leads and pin your ears back and get after the quarterback a little bit more. So I think they were just helped out by not only the draft and adding, Rankins and two guys here to put a real rotation in, but also by getting the quarterback back and improving the offense and putting yourself in situations that make it more that these guys can pin and go after the QB. So I think it's a bunch of factors adding up for these guys being winners coming out of the draft.
Yeah, they didn't get my formula, Addy, for winners versus losers is pretty simple. Did they draft your replacement? Did they sign a bunch of competition for you? That makes you a loser most of the times, in my opinion. Did they add players around you that can help you do your job better, like interior defensive line help? And like Scott said, are you getting the, all-world quarterback on the other side of the ball back healthy, able to play with some leads into the fourth quarter, hopefully some improved game scripts? And Trey Hendrickson did not get traded. So I think all in all, could have been worse for Trey, but I think we're just rolling these two guys back out.
I think so too. In the secondary, I think Scott. They lost to Wuze, but I don't think he was that good last year. I thought Tennessee kind of overpaid for him. Tennessee's kind of limited, I think, with who they can get.
Tennessee's also giving everybody a contract.
Right, exactly.
You get a contract. You get a contract. Yeah,
everyone
Absolutely.
has got a contract.
And so Cincinnati did quite a bit to address the safety room. They bring back Von Bell, they bring in Geno Stone from Baltimore, who was really good. I think he had like 7 interceptions last year for Baltimore. And then, Cam Taylor-Britt, one of the better up-and-coming corners. He's going to be a year older. I think this will be his third year. DJ Turner, this will be his second year. So,
Josh Newton in the fifth.
So, they have a really nice defense. I think linebackers, you got Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt. Logan Wilson's really good in coverage. So, yeah, I agree, man. Everything is better and improved, I think. And Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard both are slept on. Hendrickson's ADP is getting up there.
I was going to ask Scott, Hendrickson, edge 13, Hubbard, edge 34. Who do you want at their ADP, Scott?
Hubbard. That's not really close. It's definitely Hubbard just because Hendrickson is that high value and he's not the biggest tackler, So you're depending on the sacks for Hendrickson. So Hendrickson will average more points, obviously, but at that price, I'd rather have Hubbard.
I think so too, Addy. I don't know that I want to pay almost top 12 price for Trey Hendrickson. As good as he's been, one of the sack leaders over the last 5 years, I think, in the NFL. So
it feels like we're due for a down Trey Hendrickson year, though, right?
It feels like it's coming. So
It's the other. Check the calendar. It's the other year for Hendrickson.
Exactly.
Yes. Is it an even or an odd year?
And so, yeah, you're right. Sam Hubbard, he's always been a good tackler, so nice, solid floor. And then he feels like he's due for a bit of a bounce back, right? Just based on how he's been.
These guys have kind of been on the seesaw up and down. Yeah. So maybe it's an up year for Hubbard and a down year for Hendrickson.
Why did Hendrickson want to get traded, by the way?
I think he signed that extension last year, and then it was like oh crap, I think I might have signed too early. Looking at all these edge contracts, like what Brian Burns got and Danielle Hunter got, he was like, oh, I really messed up. I'm one of the top guys in the league. I think I deserve a bigger deal. But also I might retire. So, I think he overplayed his hand quite a bit.
I hate the Bengals as a Steelers fan, but they're in a good spot right now with a good QB.
Yes.
The 2 years that Joe Burrow has been healthy, they went to the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. So what are we talking about, Hendrickson? I get it's all money. So
yeah, he mistimed the market.
He really did. And I would have some sympathy for him if he didn't just sign that extension last offseason.
Right.
So last season.
Also, I am kind of curious, what does Miles Murphy look like in year 2?
Good point.
Could he cut into one of Sam Hubbard snaps?
I think they want to see what they got with this guy because the plan is probably to cut one both of them loose. You got looming
Yes,
extensions for Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow's going to want to re-up at some point. Do you want to bring T. Higgins back or just let him walk? So
that's a good point. I mean, it does seem like the future is uncertain for both of those guys. 'Cause I imagine Hubbard's contract's coming up here soon too, or at least they have an out.
Yeah,
if they
I would say
want.
both of these guys are probably going to be potential contract or cap casualties at some point in the very
Hubbard
near
is up
future.
in 26. So,
Okay.
but next year would save 9.6.
I could see it.
There you
I
go.
could
Yeah.
see it.
It'd be 2 million in dead. So that could definitely happen.
So maybe go ahead and start trading for Miles Murphy.
I was going to say a nice little stash potentially because we like this role in the Cincinnati defense. So let's do another double up, though, Scott, and talk about a couple of beefy boys in the middle. We have as winners Jeffrey Simmons, defensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans, and DeForest Buckner, defensive tackle for the Indianapolis Colts. We talked about it sort of in reverse with Hubbard and Hendrickson, where you get the help on the inside. This is sort of the flip where Buckner is getting reinforcements along the edge. The Colts have done their darndest to throw bodies at their edge position, adding Sebson Ebukam last offseason, drafting Quay and Daiyan Odangbo in previous drafts. And then
No
this year-
cheating from Grover Stewart, hopefully.
Yes,
Keep
please.
your fingers crossed.
Yeah, what was it? It was some crazy thing.
Steroids.
Yeah,
Or
but
performance enhancing drugs, whatever.
didn't he say was he the one that was like, I was trying to take something so that my wife and I could get pregnant, or one of those guys pulled that excuse out at some point. Maybe I'll look up what Grover's excuse was, but yeah, Grover Stewart back in the mix now. And then with the first pick the Colts first pick in the first round, they take the first defensive player off the board in Laiatu Latu. So Buckner is getting more support along the edge, hopefully freeing him up more in the middle. And then Jeffrey Simmons, say what you will about the pick, but T'Vondre Sweat is a mammoth human being.
Yes.
He will primarily operate as a run defender. So it possibly frees Simmons up, fewer double teams. So, Scott, we're kind of looking at this as like these dudes got some reinforcements, but not in a way that kind of threatens their path to snaps.
Yeah, exactly. And Simmons did end the season on IR with a knee injury. So, we'll see what he looks like when he comes back. I'm assuming he's going to be okay, but you never know. But if he is, he's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league, and he gets a monster right next to him. And I know a lot of people want to say, T'Vondre Sweat's a 2-down player. Yeah, most of the interior defensive linemen are. So what are we even talking about? Like, he's a 2-down player. Yeah, so is McKinley Jackson. So is Rook. So is most of the interior defensive linemen that you'll ever draft are 2-down guys. It's the most rotated spot in the league. So sure, but in those downs, the two monsters up front are going to take up 4 guys. I mean, and T'Vondre is going to at least take up 2 on each. 2 enormous. It's like Casey Hampton, one of my favorite Steelers, also a Texas guy. I'm a Longhorns fan, so I love Sweat. Obviously, the off-field stuff wasn't great. The Dewey and all that stuff right before the draft, pretty stupid, but didn't affect his draft stock that much. And he is just a mammoth of a human being. He may not have big production in the NFL, but he is going to eat offensive linemen's lunch. He's going to take up blockers. He's going to leave Simmons more on 1-to-1 because he was working with, I love my boy Keandre Coburn, another Texas guy, but he is not Sweat. So I am super excited to see what this defensive line looks like. And I could have put Harold Landry on here too. I think that whole defensive line is helped by Sweat.
Yeah, and don't forget about they bring in L'Jarius Sneed, so that'll help, the pass rush some, I think.
And the overpaid Chidobe Awuzie was as well.
I mean,
they did.
they did overpay Awuzie, but he's better than who they have Fulton over there last year,
Right.
whoever it was.
Yeah.
That was miserable. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that is definitely better.
Yeah, T'Vondre Sweat is 6'4", 346.
So he may be wider than he is tall.
Maybe so.
And he's
He's a
very
biscuit
tall
away from 400 pounds. I mean, let's
Biscuit
just
away.
say
man.
what
Especially
it
if it's a
is here.
Bojangles biscuit. That would put him over the edge pretty easily, I feel like.
Went on a business here.
You what?
And went on a business here.
I know, very sad.
Sad.
You really have to mess up for a fried chicken
do,
joint to
man.
go out of business in Chicken City, USA, here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So
They couldn't cut it.
they couldn't cut
cut it.
Too competitive. But yes, I agree. Simmons, Buckner, both winners. I'm very excited to see.
and Buckner. That's a
That
fantastic
is so
duo.
great.
That is disgusting.
Yeah, that's going to be phenomenal. I believe Buckner re-upped this offseason. I think he's signed a new contract with Indy, so he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
Like we said, brought Grover Stewart back. He did not have the pregnancy excuse. I'll have to find out who that was. I'm very. I remember this, and I'm thinking, bro, like,
I
come
remember
on.
that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Blaming the wife.
Yeah, sorry, my wife. She wanted a baby.
My wife.
My wife. So just classic.
I
men.
told you, honey.
Exactly. Now I'm suspended. Oh, so good stuff. Let's flip it back over to another winner, though. We're going 3 winners in a row because we are feeling good. It is Denver edge rusher Baron Browning. Scott, why did you have Mr. Browning as a winner?
All right. So I know Cooper is better statistically, and that's not a surprise, right? And I know they drafted Jonah Elliss, but Jonah Elliss is coming off a torn labrum. I think they're going to work him in a little bit easier. Baron Browning has graded better than Cooper at pretty much everything but tackling. So I just think that with a healthy year, hopefully a better offense, because Russell was miserable. I am not excited about Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, just so y'all know. Not my favorite signing the Steelers have ever had. But, I think that this line in Denver, they just need a lot of snaps. And I think Browning and Cooper are the guys there. They didn't invest heavily. 1 third-round pick, sure. Like we were talking about before, maybe everybody gets 600 snaps here. That'd probably be good for Browning's career as well with all the injuries he's had. I just think if we get a fully healthy season from him, there's just a lot of meat on the bone for him to make a big impact. So I'm excited to see what he can potentially do. Wish they would have added a little more to the line, but I'm excited they didn't definitely draft his replacement. Elliss will work in. I think eventually he'll be the best of these 3 edge rushers, but it surprised me if Browning is healthy that it wouldn't surprise me if Cooper was the guy that had his snaps eaten a little bit more.
Yeah, Addy, how do you see this working out? A lot of bodies along that Denver defensive line. We've talked about Zach Allen, maybe the guy that you want for IDP, but how do you see the kind of edge group working out now with the additions?
Yeah, it's interesting because you got Nick Bonito there as well. So they're all these guys kind of in the same range, and also
they're the same type too. I feel like
right. Yeah, Baron Browning and Bonito both are like really good PFF wise. Always have good pressure rates and stuff like that. So things that you want to see, they just haven't. I think Bonito was actually pretty solid last year for IDP for a stretch there, and Browning has some spike weeks every single year.
Yes, yeah, he has like these outlier weeks. I feel like Cooper does that too. They all have like boomer bust weeks. It feels like.
Yeah, it's a hard team to figure out. It's a great value though in best ball. I think no one really ever drafts any of those guys before like the 11th round.
I was gonna say,
Baron. So if you can figure out who it is going to be. There's some real profit there potentially.
Yeah, so you got Baron Browning, edge 47, Jonathan Cooper, edge 38.
That's a little
surprising.
surprising.
And then Nick Bonito is edge 50. So the market likes Cooper.
And where's Zach Allen at?
Zach Allen was right above, actually. So let me see. He was defensive tackle 17, DL 62.
Oh, my God.
I think that's low for Cooper, too. Cooper had a great year last year.
Yeah, so that's the one the market likes the best, is Jonathan Cooper.
And then you got, don't forget, you got old Drew Sanders there.
That's right. What's going to happen with Sanders?
So what's he going to look like? How many snaps is he going to get?
You think that ends up happening, Scott? Is Drew Sanders actually going out to edge?
I don't know what the hell they're doing with Drew Sanders, and neither do they. I think it's an issue. You know what I mean? So I think he's more suited to play the edge, but I think they need him more in the middle. So I don't know, because right now it's Barton, it's Singleton, and then Jonas Griffith, who is coming off an injury, and then Justin Strand, who's coming off an injury, and then Drew Sanders. So I don't know. I think unless they sign another inside linebacker, I think they need to keep Sanders inside, and I think they eventually will come to that realization. So I don't really like Sanders because I don't know what the hell they're doing with them, and I don't think they do either.
Yeah, it's like, are we getting Zaven Collins all over again?
Jesus.
Because
if
so, no thank you. But let's move on, Addy, to our one and only DB. We had to throw a bone to the DBs. Unfortunately, it's a loser in the DB category, but it is a player that, we're starting to get little kind of snippets of like guys in shorts and shoulder pads they had the Malachi Corley, shout out WKU, of him running the screen, and it's like Malachi Corley with the flex emoji, and everyone's like, oh my God, what a crazy clip. Him running a screen route.
I feel like that social media team was just trolling everybody.
I know, right? Like
they weren't.
They
serious.
knew that this guy,
But also, are we sure that Aaron Rodgers can even throw it 10 yards down the field next year? I mean, they really need a guy like Corley potentially.
Yes, they may need a screen god, the Yak King with Aaron Rodgers. What is he going to look like with this magically healed Achilles? This immunized Achilles situation. So, but the loser we have from the DB position, Addy, is a guy that was in the news because the player the Chiefs managed to snag, Jaden Hicks, was making some plays there at, I guess this is like
rookie
OTAs.
Camp.
Yeah, OTAs or whatever. So we were wondering what's going to happen with this guy. It is Justin Reid. You brought it up. Final year of his contract, I believe, there in Kansas City.
Yep.
The Chiefs have always been very good about drafting replacements. We see McDuffie slotting in place of L'Jarius Sneed now. This is what the Chiefs do. They are very good at draft and develop before they need these guys. So the writing is on the wall, though, it feels like, with Justin Reid for this season, Addy, and especially for the future.
Yeah, maybe so. I think Kansas City really likes Reid. I think he was pretty important to what they did there. So I feel like they're going to do everything they can to try and bring him back. So it could be one of those situations where you're waiting a little bit longer than you want to. Because, I mean, he was drafted in the 4th round. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, a lot of teams pass on him. A lot of safeties went ahead of him.
Yes, they did.
I like Jaden Hicks as well, but he is kind of that old archetype where he's a big box banger. Is he going to be like great in coverage? Maybe not. So I don't know. I'm a big Justin Reid fan.
I knew this one would cut you deep.
What's his ECR or his ADP right now?
Justin Reid.
It's not bad. I drafted him like in the 17th round today.
He is safety 24.
Oh, it's beautiful. He finished. He finished inside the top 15 last year.
Yeah, he's just slept on. He's just slept on. That's all it is.
I think I have him at safety 17 or 18. So
yeah, that's right.
A little low to me, I think.
Yeah, I'm probably in that same range. But man, he's super slept on, and I think he's a big part of what they do there. And also, they lost a linebacker in Willie Gay, so maybe he gets even more box snaps in 2024. But yeah, I do. He could also be too expensive for him. So
yeah, I think he could be looking to get more money than what it could be L'Jarius Sneed 2.0,
right?
Where it's like, we want to keep you, but we just have to prioritize.
Someone is going to be desperate enough to throw a bunch of money at him, and that's why they went ahead and took Hicks this year. It's for next year. Yeah,
and Hicks is, he's free. He'll be on waivers for you after your rookie drafts.
Yep.
I think he's made it through waivers and all the. I've done 4 so far, 4 completed.
Has he been drafted in any of them?
He got drafted in like the 7 rounders.
7th round, okay. Scott, just real quick, I'm curious because it felt like, especially at linebacker, I felt like most people had the same top 3 at edge. Linebacker was a little less chalky in terms of people's rankings of these prospects. Who was your top safety coming into this draft?
My top safety coming into this year's draft.
Yeah.
Let me just double check here, make sure I'm not speaking out of turn. It was Nubin. It wasn't particularly close either. So yeah, it was Nubin, and I think the landing spot for him was excellent as well. Just an immediate McKinney replacement. So
careful, Scott. Careful, buddy.
No, yeah.
This is a Cole Bishop guy
Cole
over
Bishop,
here.
He's coming.
I like Cole Bishop too, but I think Nubin is the guaranteed starter from day one. I think Bishop should start, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think both those guys are probably the 2 favorites to get snaps as rookies,
just because of what's there.
I guess Javon Bullard is landing in a good spot too, and he was the 2nd safety off the board. I think
so.
Right?
Yeah,
but Green Bay has so many safeties.
Yeah, who knows what's going on there? That's a weird situation.
That depth chart is loaded up.
It is.
It is.
They are ready for some bad days.
Yeah. Yeah. If you, it makes you wonder. This Xavier McKinney ticket I'm holding, is this maybe some fool's gold. Because
I'm not buying into
because
it.
especially at what you have to pay, because I would guess that Xavier McKinney right now, let's see where he is.
That's a top 12.
Safety 11.
Wow.
Pretty high.
And
we
last
like
year
Xavier
really was
McKinney.
his breakout, you know.
The what?
Last year was McKinney's real breakout.
100% of snaps. I'm just going to say I will probably, as a rule, fade guys that played 100% of snaps the previous season. That's very hard to do back-to-back years. So.
That's a good point. I was going to say, well, who else is playing in front of him? But it's just about him breaking down. I get you.
Yeah. Well, it's like I think you're paying sticker price for this guy.
I mean, don't take a DB early. Everybody.
There we go.
Yeah.
You're preaching to the choir here.
Yep.
That's right.
And also, you know, it's a new situation. Who knows? We talked about this the last episode, I think. Just we haven't seen a safety in Green Bay be productive. For
and
IDP
who
in a
tackled
while.
for New York? Okereke
Right.
and
That's it. It was McKinney.
And McKinney, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's true.
and you got an improved linebacker core in front of McKinney now. And when we said it, Keyshawn Nixon in kick and punt return leagues is the DB that you want there.
Yeah, it's true. Green Bay has 6 linebackers now.
Mm-hmm. Did they add?
Well, they added Hopper. I mean,
that's right. Yes, they did take Hopper.
And they added
They took Hopper early.
They did.
The third.
They really did.
Yeah.
Mike had him as like, keep these players on your radar at the bottom of his article. And then there's Hopper jumping in to like way earlier than I thought he was going to go. So,
yeah, Green Bay fans were not happy with us on one of our last videos about us suggesting that Quay could be in trouble. They did not like that.
Yes, well, we'll get to it because we've got Quay here a little bit later.
Okay.
But let's table that for now and move to another linebacker loser, Scott. And this one, we are going to Pittsburgh. We know that Peyton Wilson ended up there. So I think we both had this player down as a loser. We will let you kick us off talking about Elandon Roberts, linebacker, Pittsburgh, as a loser post-draft.
Yeah, and I hate saying it because I think Elandon Roberts did a great job filling in last season when every linebacker but him got hurt, right? And including him. I think he missed a game with a concussion as well. But he's just miserable in pass coverage. And his grade was the best of his career last year, but he still allowed 41 catches on 45 targets, right? Peyton Wilson will immediately replace him on third downs. Cole Holcomb is still on the roster recovering from that brutal knee injury. And Patrick Queen was obviously signed to be the main guy in the middle. So there's just too much competition for this spot for Elandon Roberts for this season, and I already think that he's third. And if Cole Holcomb was healthy, he would easily be fourth. So, yeah, it's just a bad spot to be in for Roberts when the Steelers invested, big time money and a high draft pick in the same spot. So it's going to be a tough one for Roberts to stay relevant.
Yeah, Addy, this is a tough situation because I want to be in on one of the Pittsburgh linebackers. It's kind of like one of those, the New York Yankees shortstop, like Pittsburgh Steelers middle linebacker, right? Just has this kind of gravitas to it. But I don't know that I'm in on Patrick Queen at linebacker 10 prices. So it's like, all right, I'll take the discount. I'll take the guy going later. But all of these guys have question marks now because you've got Cole Holcomb coming off maybe the worst knee injury of last season. I mean, just gruesome.
It was tough. Yeah.
It was awful injury. We don't know if he'll ever be the same.
Dude, him and Nick Chubb last year.
Yes.
That was both brutal injuries.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So who knows what Cole Holcomb will look like? You got Peyton Wilson, who doesn't have ACLs and is an older prospect, now making the kind of viability of Elandon Roberts in question as well. So is this just a big stay away for IDP, or do you have a guy that you'll be maybe looking at a little bit in best ball?
Yeah, it's Patrick Queen. That's it.
You're going to pay for Patrick Queen?
I mean,
you got to pay for one of them. So,
and I mean, you don't have to pay that much. What is he? Let's pull him up.
He's LB10.
Oh,
so he's going. I'll give you the kind of context.
That feels
here.
fair. But
so he's going like 2 picks after Joey Bosa, but right after him, Quincy Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, Terrell Bernard, Bobby Wagner, Logan Wilson, Frankie Louvu.
I'd still rather have those guys.
I know, right? So I'm worried that the Pittsburgh Steelers room, just because of the market value right now, might be one that I'm just avoiding altogether.
Yeah, I think so as well. Because I don't think I've drafted any of them. Actually, I haven't, and I've done 12 best ball so far this
Yeah,
offseason.
I don't know
a
that I'll
single
have any
Steeler.
shares of these
But
guys.
we do got to give a little bit of shout out to Landon Roberts. Dude's been really good the last 3 years. In 2021,
He's
he
a
had
good linebacker.
Yeah.
He's a very good linebacker. And I think in most scenarios, I would love to see him go somewhere and start. It's just you paid Patrick Queen, you drafted Wilson, he won the Bednarik. Like, as long as he's healthy, he's a better linebacker than Roberts. So
for sure.
it's just tough. And Cole Holcomb's better than him too, but he had the brutal knee injury. Maybe he never plays again. Who knows? But at best, it looks like midway through the year, Roberts is third. So,
Yeah.
you know, could see it. Look, if Holcomb doesn't come back and Peyton Wilson does a Peyton Wilson and misses some games again, Landon Roberts' value comes up. But he's probably a waiver wire ad. So
yeah, I was gonna say, and if he is a waiver wire ad, Addy, it feels like he could be a nice little like midseason pickup if needed. Because like you said, he has been solid for us.
That's what he was last year, right? Man. I mean, that's what happened last year. Same thing. When Holcomb went down.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, last year he put up 101 tackles and 2.5 sacks. In 2022, he put up 104 tackles and 4.5 sacks.
It's a good player.
Yeah, 2021, 83 tackles and a sack. So I mean, yeah, he's gonna rack up the tackles when he's out there, and that's useful.
A lot of green and yellow in the PFF grade, so very solid player, like Scott said. Scott, we're going to keep you on the spot here. Another winner from you, or no, flipping from loser to winner. We're going to Atlanta for the linebacker they signed last offseason. We were having this debate about Troy Anderson, Nate Landman, if who's going to be the LB2 there, but it
brought
seems
in JD
Bertrand,
yeah, JD Bertrand. So, but I feel like we know who the LB1 is going to be, and it's your next winner. Who are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's Caden Ellis. They paid him. He's their guy. You know, he followed his DC over from New Orleans. So I just think that them adding not just Rook, but Brandon Dorless too, because this was my main concern for the team. Obviously, Trice on the outside as well added for them along that defensive line. But like I was looking, I'm like, well, Grady Jarrett's coming off the brutal injury, right? Tore his ACL last year, wasn't it? So I don't know what he's going to look like. He's an older vet too. And then what do you have? It's Onyemata and Kentavia Street, Taquan Graham. I don't know, but I think adding Rook, adding Dorless, I never would have taken Rook ahead of Newton, but you know, Newton with the Jones fracture, they need immediate impact. Maybe his immediate status is up in the air. They went safer with Rook, or more healthy, I guess, with Rook, and they added a guy like Dorless. That's kind of a, you know, I like him as a 3-4 end, which is what he's going to do here in Atlanta. I just clean up that middle and let a guy like Caden Ellis go and make the tackle. So I just think things are going to be cleaner in front of him. Not going to have to get off as many blocks, and he can make more tackles. So I kind of like them adding to this spot for a guy like Caden Ellis.
And adding not to, let's not forget the, I think, coaching upgrade with Arthur Smith. Thank God, finally out the door.
And onto my team. Ugh.
Oh my God. How are you feeling about that, Scott? Because that just feels like you got son of a poo-poo platter at quarterback now and Arthur Smith as your OC. Like,
look, I was really happy. Great. I was really happy about Justin Fields, but Arthur Smith, not so much. And I just, I was also glad to get away from Pickett because I wasn't a Pickett guy either. But Arthur Smith is just brutal. I mean, I think George Pickens is going to have a great season because he's going to have 150 targets. Nobody else is going to have more than 50, right? That's what they do. They're going to run the ball 150 times a game and throw it 8 times to Pickens. Hopefully he catches 4 of them. And then a tight end will catch a touchdown when you needed Najee or Warren or Pickens to score it. They'll throw it to Darnell Washington or somebody. And, everyone will be pissed because it's Arthur Smith. So, yeah, that's looking forward to it. At least I'm not bitter. So that's
fun. So Falcons fans, at least you have that off of your plate now.
Yes.
And in his place steps Raheem Morris, who really coached up that Los Angeles defense last year. So, Addy, we may have concerns about who is the LB2, but Caden Ellis, I think, could be a nice little post-hype sleeper going as LB33 right now. It seems like pretty good value.
I think people are sleeping on Caden Ellis a little bit. I think he started off a little slow, and I think people remember that, but he finished really, really strong. I mean, if you look at the first 8 weeks, he was averaging – the first 9 weeks, he was averaging 10.3 points per game. weeks 10 through 18, he was averaging 15 points per game. So he was like a rock solid linebacker to the last half of the season. Former DC is gone now. He's in Jacksonville. So that's interesting. How does everything shake out with Morris, who's coming from LA, who they typically just ran, Ernest Jones as the lone linebacker. So there is some concern there as far as like, what does everything look like? But I do agree. I think Kaden Elliss is the guy that I feel best about. The uncertainty for me is like Troy Anderson, Nate Landman. How's this rookie fit in here? But yeah, I feel good about Kaden Elliss, and also you gotta feel like Kaden Elliss is happy that he's got another brother in the league.
That's right.
Yeah.
Great day in the Elliss household. This is so interesting. I was like, I wonder if the market is down on Kaden Elliss, sitting as the LB 33 right now. I feel like there was some good hype around Elliss last offseason.
There was.
Finished the offseason as LB 33. So in the exact same spot that he was last year. So the market is like, we have the same expectations for this guy compared to the rest of his peers. So we'll see how it shakes out with the LB2, but I think we are feeling good about where Kaden Elliss is right now, considering the talent they brought in to bolster this defense, the coaching upgrade. I think this team they're the favorites, I think, to win the NFC South right now.
Yeah, probably so. And Kaden Elliss is one of those rare linebackers that has big play upside. You know? He's a pretty solid tackler. Would like to, for him to be a better tackler, but I mean, he's probably one of the better linebackers at getting sacks.
Yep, I agree. He has that pass rush upside like Frankie Louvu, those kind of playmaking guys. So let's stick with linebacker and go with another winner from Arizona. It is one of the most slept on linebackers in the whole league. The Cardinals spent 6 picks across all 7 rounds in the draft, revamping their defense. None of those was spent at off-ball linebacker. Free agent additions, Chris Barnes, Mac Wilson. I'm not worried about any of those guys really stealing Kyzir White's thunder. Addy, do you have the splits? I know Kyzir White got hurt late in the season, but I feel like early on, this dude was like a locked and loaded, like top 12, top 15 linebacker, going as, let's see, the LB 37 right now. So a tremendous value.
Way too low.
Way too late. Way too late. I mean, he's just one of those not sexy, but the defensive coordinator he was with in Philadelphia is still the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. So do we have the numbers from 2023, Addy?
He averaged 14 points per game.
Yeah.
And that was
good.
That was what he played 8 or 9 games.
I was going to say, I think he played about half the season.
11.
Yeah. So
11 games, torn bicep.
12.7% tackle rate. So that's strong. But yeah, I mean, he's the guy there, man.
That's it.
And we know that the head coach loves him, brought him over from Philly.
Yep, Philadelphia.
And so, yeah, man, Kyzir White, super underrated. I've got him in tons of these best balls because, the ADP doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I was going to say, the guys he's going around right now, again, LB 37, and he is going around the likes of EJ Speed and Nakobe Dean go off the board right before him.
That's
Ivan
a great value
Pace.
for EJ Speed.
Do what?
I love that value for EJ Speed.
I do too. But you look at right after him is Ivan Pace, Matt Milano, Demario Davis, Tremaine Pratt. I mean,
like Demario Davis.
But it's like we have a clear LB1 sitting down at LB 37. So just
that range is so nice.
It's a nice range.
Jordan Hicks is in that range too, I guarantee. But yeah, a lot of those guys are just vets that are not sexy, but they're going to pile up 130, 40 tackles next season.
Yeah, I was going to say Hicks is down at LB 45 right now.
Oh my God.
So if you want to go DL early and go shopping in the bargain aile for your linebackers, there's some good options down there.
Get you a couple studs in the early rounds, but then make sure you hammer those, rounds like 8 through 11 probably.
Yeah, this is 116. So
yeah, in that range.
Round 9, round 10. Yeah. And even earlier for some of those guys. Yeah, 8, 9, 10. That's a great aisles to be shopping in for linebackers. Scott, let's go to a loser here, Los Angeles Chargers. We had a feeling it was coming, I'm sure, when you guys were talking about it. Junior Colson to the Chargers. A lot of smoke. It ends up happening. Loser for you is the guy that we were excited about last year, but now seems to be maybe on the outs with the arrival of Junior Colson. Who are we talking about here?
Daiyan Henley, the linebacker from Washington State, who ended up with the Chargers, but they fired the regime that brought him in last year, and here comes Jim Harbaugh. And not only does he bring in someone at his spot, but he brings in the guy that wore the communicator from Michigan and called all the plays last season. And Minter is coming over as well. So that's his DC from Michigan. So there is literally no learning curve for Junior Colson here. It's probably just, some functional things. But in terms of where everyone's supposed to be on defense and all that stuff, this is the guy. He knows the whole system. He knows everything. I don't know why they wouldn't have him out there starting from day one. So Henley, good player, kind of a tweener, a very good coverage linebacker. But I mean, he's probably going to be stuck to third and longs. So just not a good spot for him to be in for his career. And because of that, he has to be a loser here.
Yeah, Addy, I think I'm totally out on Daiyan Henley. We kind of wondered, is this 2024 Brian Asamoah? Is he about to come in and get usurped by a guy who's just a better player? New coaching staff, and that's exactly what happened. You thought Harbaugh wasn't going to like Henley because he's kind of a weirdo.
Yes.
Both guys are weirdos, but Henley's a weirdo in the way that Harbaugh is not going to like. And
he doesn't wear khakis?
Exactly, right? He doesn't have the creased khakis and the nice crisp button-down shirt.
Doesn't take his whole team to the Vatican for a vacation for whatever reason.
Harbaugh's such a weirdo, man. I love
God,
it.
he's such a weird dude.
He's such a weird dude, but he gets his middle linebacker. He gets his defensive coordinator. I mean, this is just rest in peace. I think Denzel Perryman has a little bit of run there just because he's a veteran, but Daiyan Henley just seems like the odd man out.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a shame, but I mean,
what could have been?
That's what
Hopefully
happens.
he'll sign somewhere else, after they cut him after this season. And,
yes, exactly.
Revive his career somewhere, because I think he definitely still can. He's a good player. He just doesn't fit.
It's it'd be the Quincy Williams path.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Quincy was pretty
Quincy
early
was
on with
drafted
the Jags,
by the third round by the Jags, and then they cut him
Yep.
a couple years, like a couple years in his career, and then we know the rest.
From
Took
being
him a couple years to get his feet in in New York, but then
It did take him a little bit. He was kind of slept on just because it was like, he's solid, but then it's like, oh wait, he's one of the best linebackers in the league now. So from 2024's Brian Asamoah to 2025, 2026's Quincy Williams. That's the career path we're hoping for Daiyan Henley.
Yep.
Well, let's go to another loser here, and we are going to Carolina. It's a player we've talked a lot about here recently with the addition of one of your favorite linebackers, especially in these rookie drafts. I know you've been drafting some Trevin Wallace, Addy, but it comes at the expense of Shaq Thompson, Josie Jewell in town. Jiro Evero is still there, defensive coordinator who's worked with Jewell previously. Seems like he is going to be the guy, the leading snap getter at the linebacker position. Trevin Wallace seems like the long-term replacement for Shaq Thompson. Thompson coming off that fractured fibula. So I think the writing is on the wall. This will probably be Shaq Thompson's. We'll see what kind of relevance he has, but my guess is this is probably his last season in Carolina.
Yep, I agree. We'll see what he looks like recovering from that injury.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Trevin Wallace, very similar to Frankie Louvu in my eyes. I mean,
I think so too. Yeah.
11.3% tackle rate in college, so not the strongest tackle rate, but really good at big plays. Had 18.5 TFLs, 10 sacks over, it was like 30 games, something like that, 35 games, I think. So yeah, I mean, he feels like the Frankie Louvu replacement. And I could see him coming in and getting snaps pretty quickly. He was the third linebacker drafted in this class, so I think.
Were you looking at those stats, or do you have those memorized?
I just wrote a little blurb about
Okay.
Trevin Wallace.
He took Trevin Wallace in our rookie mock draft. And
You're
wrote up a
looking
little
right at
blurb.
Josh, rattling off these stats. I'm like, what is happening? Is this that I walking in the swim fan club
Yes.
for Trevin Wallace here?
It's a beautiful mind
Right.
situation
I love it.
going on
That's
over here.
outstanding.
Yeah, a lot of that's all I can keep
it.
in mind. Just
Don't know his kid's name.
useless rates,
Yeah.
tackle and pressure rates.
What did
It's
your
really
wife tell you
sad.
guys you're doing this weekend? You have no idea, right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
I can only speak in PFF pressure rate, honey. Sorry.
Oh God, it's Mother's Day weekend this weekend. Oh boy.
Oh, yikes. But hey, Trevin Wallace, though, babe, what do you think? Frankie Louvu replacement. Yeah. Scott, what were your thoughts on Wallace coming into the league, and how do you think this affects Shaq Thompson's long-term outlook there?
I mean, I love the pick for Carolina. I thought it was a great pick, and I agree. He's very similar to Frankie Louvu. So if you're gonna miss that, and this team traded their best pass rusher, so you got to add players that are going to be able to put a little pressure on the QB. So I'll say this: I think if Shaq Thompson is fully recovered from this fractured fibula, Wallace is not replacing him as a rookie. Even in his old age, I think he's just, an old legend, a stud. They're probably not taking him off the field. But if he's not the same, if he looks like an old man out there, yeah, I mean, out to the shed, old Yeller. Sorry, we're getting close to the end here. So next year, it's definitely Wallace. I think if Thompson has a year in him, that's it. But yeah, I think for this year, if Shaq Thompson's good enough, I think he'll still play out there, but Wallace is a good eventual replacement.
Yeah, and let's take a stroll down narrative street for a second. I think this team is going to suck. Still.
Yeah, what about that? I mean, if they're bad,
if they're
let's get these young guys out there.
Exactly,
maybe.
they're like 2-8.
I mean, if Thompson's healthy, he could easily get traded.
Yes,
no ring chasing.
Yes, exactly. I think that could happen as well, but for several reasons, I think there's a path to Trevin Wallace getting on the field more than we expect in 2024. So we'll see how it plays out. Shaq Thompson, definitely some question marks. Definitely a loser, at least at this point in the calendar. I wanted to see where he was going to.
That is a bad defense.
It's a bad team, man. I don't. At
least the offense has done some things where you're like, well, okay.
I don't know though. I know Bob
Xavier
loves
Leggett. He
Xavier,
sounds like us. You know?
Xavier Leggett does sound like a country boy that we probably went to school with here.
Well, they added Deontay, they added Robert Hunt, and Damian Lewis on the offensive line. They drafted Jatavian Sanders. They drafted Jonathan Brooks. They gave Young more weapons.
Agreed.
So he doesn't.
They did.
He doesn't have an excuse. If he sucks this year, then they're back to hunting for QB next year. I feel like, and Young will be on the long list of first round QBs and number 1 overall QBs that get a shot somewhere else. I mean, freaking Sam Darnold's still getting a shot. You're a first round quarterback. It's like a free hall pass to last 5 years longer in the league than you should. It's kind of crazy.
It's it's just a great example of the hubris at the NFL decision making, where it's like, well,
we can fix him.
Exactly. What we can unlock this guy. We're smarter and more capable than everyone else. We see things that other teams haven't seen. So it's like, no, man, the guy just might not be able to hack it at the
Zach
NFL
Wilson
level.
Could start more than 5 games this year, and no one would be shocked because Bo Nix is the guy they drafted.
Exactly.
So it's just the nature of the beast at that position. So.
Yep. So, Scott, we've got another winner, this time out of Seattle, a linebacker room that we like quite a bit because they are tremendous values in drafts right now. But we're talking about Tyrel Dodson as a winner. Make the case for why.
Yeah, because they don't have anybody else on the roster to play linebacker. I mean, it's Jerome Baker. It's Tyrel Dodson, inside linebacker anyway. After him, it's Tyrese Knight, who I really like, who they drafted out of Utah.
We do as well.
But I don't think he's putting pressure on Dodson or Baker. Drake Thomas, I don't know. Radigan didn't make it. I don't like this room. So Jerome Baker's coming off a bad wrist injury. So Dodson filled in admirably last season too. So for Dodson, when he started, he averaged 6 tackles per game. He had 5 QB hits and 2.5 sacks in those 10 starts. So I thought those were pretty good numbers. And I like him a lot in Seattle. I think he's going to stack up tackles. And let's not forget, they account for more tackles in Seattle. The scorekeeper has been there for a while. My guy, Gary Davenport, told me about this years and years ago. Buffalo and Seattle are the 2 teams that, for whatever reason, their scorekeepers that have been there for years just attribute more tackles to players. So if you're breathing near the pile, you get an assist. And I love that for Dodson. Half of his home games are going to be there.
Love to see it. And this is another reason why I'm maybe just totally out on Shaq Thompson. Thompson was going as LB52. Tyrel Dodson is LB67.
What?
So this will change, right? There haven't been as many post-free agency, post-NFL draft, best ball drafts to kind of move the ADP significantly.
Do you see what Dodson's been going lately?
Yeah, let's look up.
He goes in like usually 10th or 11th round now.
Yeah, let's
and
see
him and
where
Jerome
he
Baker
is.
going like right around the same time.
So Tyrel Dodson recently. So yeah, it was very. Yes, you're right. It was very late early on. This is still being dragged down by these early drafts where he was 243, 303, 225, 362, 343.
Probably before he signed or right
Yes.
after he signed.
But since then,
Because he's such a good special teamer. I bet a lot of
Yes.
people thought that he's just being signed to be a special teamer. I didn't look at his contract. Maybe his contract says more than that. But yeah, I think maybe that was the thought process of people because he did sign pretty early. I think he signed on the day, right? 324. And that what it was?
It was early, yeah. And then it just a perfect landing spot, you know? I mean,
yeah.
It was like a 1-year deal, I think. It wasn't a lot. Like
Yeah,
1
and
year,
it was
$5 million maybe.
Yeah,
at
it was
most.
Mike McDonald that we love from Baltimore, right? Had these two amazing linebackers. So it's like coaching wise, it's great. Yeah, 142, 146, 86, 160. It basically is
That's
settled.
more like it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it basically is settled right around pick 100, like right around that range. So that's a much, much better ADP for Tyrel Dodson.
Tyrel Dodson was actually pretty good last year when you really look at the stats. I mean, played 50% of the snaps, but averaged 8.7 points per game, 4.1 tackles per game. So, I mean, if you
And that jumps up to 6 when he was starting. So
nice, yeah. And it's Buffalo too, right? I mean, Buffalo's never really been. I feel like Matt Milano's never been really efficient with tackles there. I don't know that Bernard was that efficient with tackles. He was just like kind of living off the big plays last season. So, I mean, I feel like situation-wise, like you mentioned, I mean, it seems like scorekeepers like to give him more tackles. But, I mean, he's just going to be playing a lot more snaps. Buffalo is historically, at least the last 5-6 years, it seems, they're always one of like the lowest teams as far as defensive snaps.
I fully expected to write up Tyrel Dodson for this episode as a loser because I thought this is the Edgerrin Cooper landing spot. This is the Peyton Wilson landing spot, right? It just made too much sense. I was like, Mike McDonald is going to get his guy. He's going to get...
I thought same thing for Kyzir White. I thought the Cardinals were going to draft somebody too. They had 1 million picks and they just didn't take anyone at that spot. Yeah.
So
they're scared to death to take a linebacker right now.
The Cardinals. Yes, I
They need
can't
to
blame
fix
them.
everything else first. Yeah.
Yeah, they got the stink of Isaiah Simmons and Zayvon Collins, the two tall trees that both burned to the ground within 2 years. So let's keep going though with another winner, Philadelphia, and I mean stinky but startable, which is weird to say after the way this guy started his career. But Devin White, the newest linebacker there in Philadelphia, it was a just who's who of cast-offs last season in Philly. Was Zach Cunningham getting significant run? You had Shaq Leonard in there at one point. And now it seems to be Devin White, Nakobe Dean as the two lead dogs there. And Philadelphia, kind of one of those teams as well that really had a chance to significantly add to this room. I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr., fun story, back where his dad played. I know he has some fans out there, but not exactly significant investment of draft capital in a replacement linebacker. So I think, Addy, as much as we don't like to say it, Devin White, as it stands right now, a winner for IDP.
I think so. And I mean, I think he's joining a much better defense, right? So, I mean, maybe that can help mask a lot of his issues. And they really addressed the secondary.
Yes, they did.
We know about how great this defensive line is. Really excited about Bryce Huff. Nolan Smith in year 2 should be fun. And then, yeah, I mean, the big boys in the middle, Davis and Carter, they're going to be ridiculous.
Don't forget about Milton Williams.
Milton Williams as well, one of the best, most underrated thirds in the league. So, yeah, I mean, this is a great defense. And Devin White, I mean, he's as cheap as he's ever been. You know, this is a guy that has always been drafted basically in the first as a top 5 linebacker.
Yes.
I have IDP only best ball brain right now.
Yes,
but he's usually been he's been a top 5 linebacker since he's been a rookie pretty much.
and he's LB 25 right now, Scott.
That's still a little surprising, honestly. But
we don't like Devin White because he's dumb, right? Like he's just he's never in the right spot. But you have these monsters in front of you now. And look, Vita Vea was a good player to play in front of if you're Devin White, and I think he helped his career too, right? But now you have the best interior defensive line in the league, probably the best defensive line in the league that you're playing in front of. go tackle the guy carrying the football. It shouldn't be that hard, right? So I think it's going to make it easy for Devin White, and he's, just use your instincts, kid. Just go out there and make the tackle, and he's going to be a tackle machine. I like this one. Yeah, it is weird to think that we call him a winner after the draft, but he is, because they easily could have drafted someone that would have pushed him. So I don't know.
And he's in this stretch of linebackers where it's like there are some intriguing options there, like going right after him. Well, going right before him is another Devin Lloyd, and then Big Bob Spillane at LB 24. Right after him is Christian Harris, Troy Anderson, Trenton Simpson, Jack Campbell, Josie Jewell, Eric Kendricks.
Look a little deeper into it though. See where he's been going recently, because I feel like people are maybe.
Did he go higher in one of your more recent drafts? Probably.
I feel like he's going lower. Honestly, I feel like people were maybe excited at, before free agency.
He has been going later recently. He had a little stretch there where he was going in the 40s and 50s. Now, you have to keep in mind a lot of casuals in these drafts, so it could be like, oh, Devin White, just getting drafted early based on name recognition. But yeah, he's been in the 90s, he's been in the 40s, he's been in the 70s. One draft he went 17 overall, so someone was high in that one.
There.
But yeah,
that was Devin White was
that
drafted.
was Devin White himself.
Yeah.
Yes, the last 3 drafts though, Addy, 108, 84, 69.
There you go.
So,
I'm okay with that. The 108, that's great. Yeah, if you can get him in like the 10th round, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll be there all day for that. Let's talk a couple losers though, and then we'll wrap up with a winner, Scott. Going over to Tennessee. I'm curious to see if your rationale for this guy is the same rationale that we had for why I would consider this guy a loser. Talk to us about your next guy here.
Yeah, I mean, I said that Simmons is going to be better, right? Because of Sweat, and you guys did too. We agreed on that one. Look, I like Jack Gibbens. I thought he did a great job filling in last season admirably when they needed a linebacker to step up. He was the guy that stepped up, right? But he had the back injury. We got a new DC. They drafted Cedric Gray and James Williams at this position. So I just think there's too many it's like death by 1,000 cuts here for Jack Gibbens. I think it's all adding up to him not seeing as much time as he had last season. So I'm just not really, and I roster him in a big ass IDP league dynasty that I do. With the Football Diehards League, which is it's kind of weird. It's a 32-man league, but there's doubles of every player. So I have him in that league. So it's basically a 16-man IDP. So I have him in that league, but I mean, I don't know, man. I'm thinking about drafting Cedric Gray with one of my last picks here in this one, just to make sure I have a linebacker spot for Tennessee. So I just think Gray can push him. He's coming off the back injury. He's kind of a fill-in last year anyway. New coaching staff. Too many negative factors for Gibbons to be, really considered this year.
Yeah, we mentioned Tennessee has been horny for some new contracts this offseason. So that's part of it. But they did go give Kenneth Murray, I believe, a 1-year deal, Addy. Yeah. They draft Cedric Gray, who was Mike Willard's number 2 linebacker pre-draft. So, yeah, I don't know that Jack Gibbons is long for that LB2 job.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And he's just a guy, man. He's
kind of a jag.
He's a UDFA.
Yep.
I mean, there's a reason he was undrafted.
And hey, I'm glad we got some value out of this guy.
Sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, if it was just Murray.
Yeah.
If it was just Murray, then okay, fine. He just slides in for Al-Shaair last year, and Gibbons stays next to him and whatever. But Gray and Williams and the new coaching, it's too much. Gibbons is a jag, like you guys said.
Yeah, and Gray was also someone that I think a lot of us were high pre-draft. He didn't get the capital I think we were all hoping for. What was his capital, Gray?
I think 4th round.
4th rounder. Yeah. He was basically inside of everyone's top 5 as far as linebackers go.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree. I think that he's in a great spot. That's not a scary room at all. I mean, Kenneth Murray could be on alert as well,
Could be.
It could be Gibbons and Gray season.
Gibbons and Gray season sounds like a law firm or like a
It
bad
does.
ABC show or something.
Sir.
Kenneth Murray, a tremendous value right now. LB 42.
Wow.
That is delicious value. Gibbons is all the way down in the 70s. I don't know that we've had enough drafts completed yet to really get an accurate picture of where Cedric Gray is going. But yeah, Gibbons is LB 76.
It's a pretty solid. I mean, if you want to lock up a room, I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah, you could double tap and go Gibbons. I mean, that's so late. That's
and he'll be available like
ADP of 240.
Right.
So
No one's going to draft him now.
20th round.
Well, now he'll be like you can pick him for your last pick if you
exactly.
want,
Probably down in the 28 to 31.
Because that's what I do when I draft like Foye. Or if I draft Devin Lloyd, I always draft Chad Muma usually like round 31.
It's just nice injury insurance as well, right?
Handcuffing. That's your basic handcuffing. Yeah.
We've talked about running back, linebacker, sort of equivalent in terms of the plug and play kind of functionality of these positions allows you to handcuff where you can't necessarily do that at other positions. So I think that's a good move, Addy. I wish I could give you the solo cam here because I feel like this is the hill that you are going to die on if it's up to Packers fans. They're going to riddle you with bullets for this one. Quay Walker, we're going back to the well as a post-draft loser. Explain yourself, Addy.
Can we get like an American flag behind you and maybe America the Beautiful to play?
I'll put that in post right behind Addy.
Great.
True American hero.
I mean, how is he not a loser, Green Bay fans?
Yeah, people need to wake up.
I mean, I like Quay fine, I guess, for next year. I feel like he's gonna be secure in year 3 and maybe year 4, but just a lot more risk at long term for Quay Walker there in Green Bay. Spending a 2nd round pick on Edgerrin Cooper and then you spend a 3rd on Tyron Hopper. It seems to me like they have plans. And also, Quay Walker hasn't been that impressive from a PFF standpoint. There's probably some character concerns. We know about him throwing a literal fit in the tunnel. Like, that was one of the worst looks of all time.
God, what a baby. I mean, we're talking about how dumb Devin White is. He doesn't hold a candle to Quay Walker. Like, Quay Walker's a much better player, but he is an idiot. What are you doing? Like, the biggest moment, I'm going to make the dumbest mistake I can. Like 2 or 3 times he's done it. It's just so dumb.
Yeah. Awful look. He's got a gif out there of him throwing a fit. You hate to see it.
Just like a kid walking out of a restaurant, like when they're
my 7-year-old has never done that.
Yes, exactly. I hope my kid doesn't act like that.
No.
And this is a grown man getting paid millions of dollars to play professional football. All right, Green Bay fans, come in real close. I want you to pull up dictionary.com and I want you to look up sunk cost bias. Because that is what you have right now. You are take-locked into thinking that Quay Walker is safe long-term because your team invested a first-round pick into this guy. But do not overlook the fact that they just invested significant draft capital into 2 players that play the same position as this guy. So even no matter how you feel about Quay Walker 2023 or 2024 or 2025 outlook, Scott, there is no doubt that he is a loser as we sit here post-draft.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously trying to find a way to replace him, right? I mean, that is eventually what it is. He's a great player. So you want him on the field if he's on your team. But like you just said, we invested, 2 second and a 3rd round pick in this position. And it's obvious that we are not re-signing this guy. I think they don't want him. I think they probably don't want Jair long-term. I think for different reasons, and mainly because he just can't stay on the field. Eric Stokes is not long for the Packers either. And this is the best roster in the NFL. You guys said it before. It's also very young. So if you're not doing the right thing, you're not pulling your weight, you're going to be gone. We got a replacement for you, or we'll find one in the draft because we have 1 million picks and we don't have any needs. So yeah, I think, I do not think Quay Walker is long for the Packers. He'll go somewhere else. He'll probably, if he plays decent this year, he'll get a good contract too. And hopefully he'll put, the selfishness behind him and look straight because he is talented. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they don't want him on this team long term.
Yeah, also, don't forget that Isaiah McDuffie, he's got the connection with his former DC now, right? Was it Boston College?
Oh,
His DC
yeah.
now was his coach or DC when he was at Boston College. So there's that connection.
There. Yep.
And also, a lot of people were in the comments talking about, Green Bay's moving to a 4-3 now instead of a 3-4. So that doesn't mean that there's going to be 3 linebackers getting 100% of the snaps now. That doesn't matter.
It's like Madden, though, Adam. That's how it works.
I mean, they're still going to probably have 2 linebackers.
Yes,
getting
most.
maybe 80, one of them's going to probably get 80 to 90, and then one of them's going to get 100%. But there's the world of 3 linebackers playing
is over, guys.
Yeah, significant snaps is over, guys. So I don't care about this 4-3 or this new defense. Does not matter at all.
It's 2 linebackers and a tweener or a nickel.
Yes.
That's what it is on almost every play.
Yep.
Yeah. Wake up, guys. This is not 2003 anymore. I hate to break it to you, Packers fans.
A lot of cope out there in Green Bay land. I don't know why you guys love Quay so much, but I think he's fine. But
he is a good player. I think he's a pretty decent player. He's super fast. Like, he has a lot of the things that you want in a linebacker. He makes some big plays. Just the mistakes are massive. And he's in the wrong spot a bunch of times, and then he draws flags as well. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch those guys. You're 3 and out, and this idiot gets a 15-yard penalty. It's maddening.
Yeah, and going as LB9 right now.
Oh my goodness.
No,
Good
thank you. 58.5 overall defensive grade last year. Best grade was his tackling grade. Coverage 54.7, run defense 63.5. So,
and also, why won't Green Bay bring in another linebacker next offseason?
Yeah, exactly.
They'll probably draft. That's what they've drafted. Tons of safeties, tons of linebackers. Like, they don't care.
Yeah.
They love
doubling up
chart.
in positions.
They do. I guess it gives you kind of protection in case. We talked about redundancies and contingencies.
And they've done it at quarterback for
It's worked out pretty well.
Decade.
So always protect yourself if you don't have a sure thing at a certain position. I like that strategy. Addy, we're going to wrap up with a player from your Minnesota Vikings. And this guy, Ivan Pace Jr., they get the edge help, right? We talked about Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, Dallas Turner. The only player they bring in of note is Blake Cashman, but Jordan Hicks out the door. So I know that kind of we've talked about Ivan Pace as a good sell. I think if for no other reason than in the eyes of the public, he is a winner and maybe his appeal on the trade market goes up, I think is a good enough reason to call Ivan Pace Jr. a winner post-draft.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and also you got Blake Cashman there now, but he's had a hard time staying healthy.
He's been banged up as well.
I mean, there could be a real world where Ivan Pace is once again like the LB1, the lone LB1 there. And if that happens, I mean, good gosh, you could be talking about a guy that's averaging 15, 16 points per game, be a league winner type. So, yeah, I still do like Ivan Pace. I feel like him and Cashman are both going to be able to play at the same time. I don't think both of them are going to get 100% of the snaps. I feel like Cashman will be the guy that leads in snaps, but I think Ivan Pace will be in that 70 to 90% range. I mean, I think it would be awesome if he was towards the high end of that, but he wasn't there last year,
Right.
Flores was a little hesitant to let him really loose, and he's a UDFA as well. Short arms.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think he's the perfect player.
He's not the prototype for linebacker.
Right.
He's
so,
just he's a little pocket playmaker. And
I mean, I think people should expect him probably to get replaced at some point, but I don't think that's the general feeling.
They could have done it. Yeah, they could have done it this year and didn't do it. The market is starting to turn a little bit, Scott. It was actually, I think it was maybe Cashman, and then right after that, Ivan Pace. But now we're starting to see that gap widen. Cashman is going as LB 32, and then Ivan Pace is LB 38. Which of those guys do you like better for 2024?
I do like Cashman more. I'll say that, but I think Pace is a pretty decent value. And like you said, they didn't draft his replacement. They're not on the roster here. So, Asamoah has done nothing. I do like Ruger Hill a little bit. I think he's better. I can't even remember who was behind him last year. Was it Asamoah? Probably somebody else, maybe Vigil. Who was it last year? It was Troy Dye, right? Was the next guy up, or Anthony Barr was there for a little bit, I guess. But I think he's a good player. Yeah, I think like a linebacker 4 would be nice, somewhere in that area. Linebacker 4, linebacker 5, probably borderline. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine for Ivan Pace.
And that's what you can get him at right now, LB 38.
Yeah, I like that too, because he's got nice upside.
Yep.
nice, handcuff potential too.
I don't want him creeping into that LB3 territory. I don't want him going in like the early 30s, back into the 20s. But I don't think he will.
No, yeah.
I think there's
good.
enough question marks that the market is suppressing his value.
Cashman, another one of those guys in that range, though. Ivan Pace as well that we talked about.
Yep.
Those LB 30 to 50. Very nice, once again.
Very nice. A lot of hype bunnies in like the 20s, and then a lot of like unsexy, solid vets in the 30s and 40s that are probably going to end up on top of those hype bunnies when things are all said and done. Yep. So, Scott, that is it, my friend. We have gone through about 20 winners and losers for IDP post-draft. Thanks so much for coming on and doing this with us again, my friend. It was a real pleasure. Tell the folks at home, what do you have coming up that they can look forward to? You said you're in a nice rhythm now with May here, so give the folks a taste of what they have to look forward to.
Yeah, and guys, thanks again for having me on. Just a great show that you guys put on. Real professional production here. I love it. So great show that you guys do, and I'm happy to ever be invited and be a part of it. But you can catch me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm doing a fantasy baseball on ITL with the Welsh. We're going to fire up our ITL fantasy football podcast as well. And in the meantime, I'm doing fantasy football over at FantasyPros. I will be writing it for their draft guide, IDPs. I'll be writing in Joe Pisapia's Black Book for IDPs. I'll probably have some IDP stuff on my Patreon as well, probably just more full write-ups of what you would get in the Black Book. And I'm doing the Dynasty Fantasy Football Pod over at Fantasy Pros with Pat Fitzmaurice and Ryan Wormley. So it's a lot of fun and love talking football. And hit me up at Bogman Sports.
Like we mentioned, folks, Scott knows his stuff and has one of the best heads of hair. Scott, fan out that beautiful hair for us one more time. All of it? Yes, all of it. Let's see. Look at this. Oh, my gosh. Addy, you got to get around here and look at this. Oh, man. Look at that. Look at that, folks. If you're not watching on the YouTubes, you're missing out.
Diabetic Fabio. That's you go.
Diabetic Fabio. That is a great way to put it. I don't know where else we can go from there. We're just going to leave it on Scott and that beautiful head of hair and tell you all thank you for listening, and we will catch you all here very soon again on the IDP show. Y'all take care, and we'll see you soon.
It's the IDP show. Now you know.